You can be brilliant in a meeting of three, funny over dinner, sharp on a one to one call, and then someone asks you to stand up or switch your camera on in front of 40 faces, and something in you goes quiet. Your throat tightens, your hands find each other. You forget the thing you have been living and breathing for 10 years. We call it stage fright, as if it is about the stage, but I'm starting to think it is about something much older than that. Welcome back to Healthy Mind, Healthy Life. I'm your host Yusuf, and this is the space where we slow down and look honestly at the stuff that quietly shapes our inner life. My guest today is Rick Altman, a presentation consultant of more than 2 decades, founder and host of the Presentation Summit, now in its 23rd season, and the author of several books on public communication, including his latest, Crush Your Next Virtual Presentation. He has spent a career watching smart, capable people wrestle with what it means to be seen. And that is exactly what we are talking about today. So, if you have ever felt that fear, if you have ever avoided the meeting, the camera, the mic, this one is for you. With that, I welcome my guest Rick to the show.
Thank you, Yusuf. Pleasure to be here.
Perfect. Rick, it is good to have you here, but before we go anywhere near the fear of it, I want to ask you something simpler. Across all these years of working with presenters, what is the one moment in the room or on the screen that still moves you? Like the one you never get tired of watching?
Mm. Yeah, that's an easy answer. It's what I tell my clients is the secret sauce of presenting, and that is whether you can find your most genuine and authentic self. And that's what moves me as well, not coincidentally. When I am watching a presenter who is just really in her element, somebody who has found his genuine voice. And you can just tell there's no scripts. They're speaking directly from the heart, from their head, straight to you. And it's a wonderful moment when you get those. And they're not so common in corporate America today.
Yeah, it is a real pleasure when you see a master at their work.
Yeah, certainly.
And I want to start with something a lot of people believe quietly. They think that if they were just a little more confident, like a little more prepared, a little more experienced, the fear would go away. In your experience working with hundreds of presenters, is that actually true?
Well, sure. I think so. You can never be too confident. You can be over prepared. That does happen if somebody practices the wrong way and they like want to learn their lines as if they're an actor or an actress, and that could be problematic. But if you prepare the right way, if you can see your your narrative in your head, if you have a roadmap where you don't need a script and you know what you want to say and you have practiced it, then your confidence will transfer to the audience. They'll feel it. They'll see it. And I don't think you can ever be too confident.
Yeah. And for the person who's already experienced, already senior, already successful in their field, and it still feels that tightening in their chest before they speak. So what do you want them to hear?
Yeah. Well, I will start by saying that I think being nervous is a good thing. If a client of mine says, "Oh, Rick, I'm nervous," I say, "Good. I want you to be nervous. I want this to matter to you." If they're too calm, I don't know, what does that mean? That this doesn't matter? It should always matter. So nerves are a good thing. The whole question is how you channel all of that energy that's coursing through your body. I want that energy, and you just have to find a way to channel it positively.
Mm, I see. And I like that quote, and that being nervous means something, that you want it to mean something, and that is true. And Rick, I'm curious, what is underneath the fear? Like when someone freezes before a talk or feels that dread before switching their camera on. What do you think is really being triggered? Because on the surface it looks like nerves, but I suspect it is something much older than a bad slide deck.
You know, this stuff is hard. If you think about it, you don't take storytelling classes in school. Very
Yeah.
few people actually have a formal background in graphic design. W-
Mm,
we're all undertrained in PowerPoint. And
mm,
yeah, we're scared to death to speak in public. In fact, we're scared beyond death. In the latest poll taken by the Book of Lists, public speaking ranks number one in people's fears. Death ranks
mm,
five. So we're
wow.
scared beyond death to speak in public. So I mean, the deck is really stacked against people who do this. Um, so why is this? Yes, there is that feeling that you're going to lose your composure, that you're out
Mm,
there naked in front of your audience, as I like to say, and that fear is very real. And this all just gets
mm,
back to preparation. This gets back to whether you have belief in yourself and in what you are and the story that you want to tell. And yeah, there's always that moment before the camera comes on or before you are introduced on stage. And again, I like that level of energy. It has to be channeled. Otherwise, yeah, you could, you know, the worst fear is that somebody loses their composure and simply can't speak at all. And we don't want that.
yes. There is something really humbling about that. So much of what we call stage fright is really an old part of us asking, am I safe here? Will I be accepted? And that shows up in surprising places.
That's right. Yeah, it helps to think of two things. The first is that audiences are rooting for you. You know, not too many members of your audience are hoping for a train wreck. They're rooting for you. And the second thing is to know that is especially comforting for my clients and for my audience members is that audiences don't want perfect presenters. They're not looking for somebody to deliver a perfect presentation. They are looking for somebody that they feel is just like them. They're looking for somebody that they can relate to. They're looking for authenticity. And um, I think it's kind of ironic. Authenticity, I believe, is easier to achieve than perfection. You think you could practice enough that it could be perfect, but rarely is being that polished. Rarely is that perfect. Now, I said earlier that you want to prepare. Yes, you absolutely want to prepare, but if all you're doing is just practicing, like I said earlier, reading lines, that's going to come off as usually as stiff, mechanical, and not authentic. But the person that can relax, the person that can understand that I may say a few times, I may stumble and oh let me say that again. I mean that's audience that can be endearing to audiences. They want that.
Hmm. I see. And let's bring this into everyday life, because this isn't only about keynote speeches or big stages. It is about how we show up in Monday morning Zoom calls, in your
Right.
raising hand, in being the one who speaks up in a meeting of seniors. So, how does this inner fear of being seen quietly shape people's careers and relationships, even when they don't call it public speaking?
Oh, it's very much public speaking. You are in public and you are live, even if you're not in person. In
Yeah.
fact, virtual presenting is even more challenging. You know, all the stuff I said earlier about storytelling and graphic design and using PowerPoint and all that, that doesn't go away because you have to give a virtual presentation. All that stuff is still there, and then on top of that, you add the demands of virtual, which most of us are still learning. You know, none of us knew any of this stuff before COVID. You know, we all had to figure it out. And thank goodness there was some platforms like Zoom and WebEx and all those other ones we really didn't pay much attention to until COVID. You know, on top of all of that, you have to figure out how you can engage with an audience that you can't even see. And that starts with becoming comfortable with the camera lens. Journalists call it warming to the camera. And that's not easy to do. It takes most broadcast journalists years, maybe decades to truly master. And here we're being asked to become good at it in, you know, in a space of a few months or so. That's the first thing. Can you, you know, somehow feel as if you're just reaching into the souls of your audience just by looking into a camera lens? And it starts with some physical skills of being able to make eye contact. Because, you know, in a room full of people, you don't really need to make direct eye contact with people, but here on virtual, you do. If you look just a little bit away from the camera, then they're going to notice that. Now, I'm not saying you have to rivet your eyes to the camera. It's perfectly fine to, you know, look down. Maybe you have some notes that you're looking at, you know, to look away while you're thinking about something. Those are all natural moves to make, and that's the key is to be natural in a very unnatural setting.
Okay. You know, that's the piece I think people miss. The fear does not just live on the stage, it lives in the rooms we don't enter, the ideas we don't share, the versions of ourselves we quietly keep hidden.
Yeah, that's right. And that's why I wrote a whole book on the subject, because I think there's this whole new challenge out there. You know, Yusuf, I might have retired if it weren't for this. COVID perhaps was a real silver lining for me because it introduced this whole secondary challenge for people that need to speak in public. And there's a whole lot of people that struggle with it.
Yeah. So let's suppose someone listening right now and they are nodding along with us right now, feeling seen by everything we have said. They want to take a step forward. So, what is a practical human approach you'd give them? Not to eliminate the fear, but to stop letting it decide for them.
That's a good question. And you know, this gets back to age-old principles. You know, I don't think that there's anything unique about virtual presenting that would change the way we want to deliver our messages to people. As I said earlier, we want to deliver our messages in the most authentic way possible, and that means that you really understand the message that you're delivering and that you feel it, and that you are able to somehow uh, transfer that feeling to your audience. Yes, virtual makes that more difficult because you know you're like I said, you're staring into a camera lens, but it doesn't make it any less important to be able to do that. Now, beyond that, then there are a bunch of tangible physical things that you can do. You know, first of all, we we've all learned that you are to sit down while you give a virtual presentation? Well, I want to question that. And to anybody that really wants to step outside the typical boundaries, get a second camera and have it perched in a way where you can stand up, as I'm going to do right now. Now I am standing up in my studio, even though you
Mhm.
can't see me, but perhaps maybe you'll hear that there's a little more energy to my voice now that I'm seeing myself standing up. I'm actually gesturing more. I have my microphone right next to me, so my audio is still very clear. But now I'm about 7 or 8 feet away from my camera, and that changes everything. Now it's almost as if I am in a ballroom speaking to a group of people. So that's one thing I would say is, and if you feel uncomfortable sitting down, don't. You can deliver webinars while you stand, and to many people, that actually would be liberating to do. It also helps with nerves. When you stand up, you can use bigger muscles. You can gesture more that is often not natural when you are seated. And so, these big upper body gestures, audiences appreciate them, and it consumes energy. It takes more energy to do that, and that's a good thing because, as I mentioned, that's what nerves are. They're just a lot of energy going through your body. And also, when you use big muscles, that slows you down, which is another key item of managing your nerves, is to be able to control your pace. And as you gesture more, you can slow down, you can vary the pace, and these are all really good things. As the world is going a million miles a minute and you're standing there in front of your audience or seated here virtually, the only thing you really have control over is the pace at which you speak. And if you can control that, then if you can slow down your speech pattern, you can have a pretty good chance of slowing down your entire body. And that's big, as again, you are standing or seated in front of your audience and the world seems to be going a million miles a minute.
I see. Okay. And I love that you are separating presence from perfection, because one is something we can actually build, and the other is something that keeps us small forever.
That's right. Yeah, no, these things they build on one another and they have a symbiotic relationship. They yeah, staying with the physical, the more you slow down, then the more you give yourself an opportunity to gesture, and that indeed takes more time still. Now the other thing is, most of us, we just have a little camera on our laptop computers. If you can actually get a real camera, like the one that I'm looking into now, which shows my entire upper body, the audiences really appreciate that also. They just they get a better sense of you and where you are in your environment. So a simple investment in a better camera, and maybe having two of them so you can change the feeling. It just doesn't feel like a Zoom call any longer. And you kind of feel as if you are seated in a studio instead of just, with the laptop on your next to you and, staring into a little tiny peephole.
Yeah. Rick, for people who want to connect with you or just want to learn more about your work, where can they do that?
The simplest URL, betterpresenting.com. That's my front door to my consulting practice, to the annual conference that I host, the Presentation Summit, and to my latest book, Crush Your Next Virtual Presentation.
Perfect. And to everyone listening, all these links are in the show notes, so just go and check those out. Rick, is there any last message that you want to leave us with?
I'll just say it again. This stuff is hard, and a lot of people don't want to do it. And so if you can be thought of as the person in your organization who relishes this opportunity, then you're going to be regarded in a very positive way. Because a whole lot of people don't want the ball when there's 5 seconds left in the game, and you need to take that shot to win. If I can use a sports metaphor for all of this, and if you're the person in your organization that says, "Hey, give me the ball," then that's just going to put you in a whole different light.
Perfect. Rick, thank you so much for your honesty, for the decades of watching people closely, and for reminding us that being seen is not a skill problem, it's a human one.
Pleasure is mine. Thank you.
And to you, the one listening, maybe tonight you don't need to fix the fear. Maybe you just need to stop treating it like an enemy. Maybe the next time your voice shakes, you let it. Maybe the next time your camera feels cold, you soften anyway. This is Yusuf for Healthy Mind, Healthy Life. Breathe easy, speak gently, and come back when you need this again.